You're playing it too snide, Richard.
Snide.
I need bemused. Colleen!
What's up?
What is this?
It's a dummy, Bob.
Must life be one grand production? Must you turn everything into high drama?
Look, Bob, I don't have time for whatever this is. I've got like a million things. Raina's high on glue again. And Jimmy's out of blood.
Look at it!
Okay.
Do you see what I see?
Our leading men went for sushi.
What? What do you mean they went for sushi?
And sake. They said they'd be back tomorrow.
They can't just...
Sound too. Erica took all of her gear and said she'd see us in the morning.
It's for you, Bob.
Oh, and Raina's high on glue.
Okay. Okay. Go home. We'll pick up tomorrow. Early. He's one of the good ones.
He's a dodo. Bad chi. How am I supposed to work, Candy?
Oh, Colleen.
Am I supposed to fake it? Am I supposed to lay my artistic integrity on the line and just roll over and let this ungodly lump of plastic ram its filthy
Do you want to just go grab a cup of coffee and talk tomorrow's breakdown?
No. No, leave me. Leave me to my empire of broken dreams.
Early, Bob. No more being fashionably late.
Fools. This isn't commerce. Half-ass lines and dime store dummies. The great Betty Davis once said, acting should be bigger than life. I'm head and shoulders above the rest. I'm head and shoulders above them all!
I'm sure in independent films you use either a lot of volunteers or, you know, friends of yours maybe, you know, everything like that. You know, where's the transition between that type of crowd, non-union, just people that are actors and actresses but not involved in anything, as opposed to like SAG and AFTRA and, you know, even regional little groups?
Well, my personal point of view on SAG is it's absolutely necessary for bigger projects. What I'm doing right now, just going with a SAG signatory status would just be such a financial drain. First off, to the project. Second off, in the personnel that I would have to have in place to support all of the paperwork, etc. So I normally don't recommend and wouldn't go SAG myself unless I had an actor who was absolutely vital, who is consented to do the role and they were SAG, or unless I were going after a much larger, sort of broader reaching talent pool, like, you know, I want someone more well known. Obviously I'm going to have to become SAG signatory. That would mean that obviously I need a budget. Since I don't have much money to work with, my decision has pretty much been made for me. I think with the way that I make movies right now, I think I identified it as $1 million to be my first SAG picture.
Fair enough. Now, especially as far as, you know, trying to avoid getting the cops called on you running through the woods with fake blood and everything, when you do find that you need a set that's not in your house or not around you, or your friends don't have it, basically, do you try and improvise, like, let's say a hospital room or something, or would you try and, I don't know, I guess con some nurse late at night and you sneak in real quick and get a couple of shots?
Obviously it's going to be whatever works for your project and the people that you have surrounding you. You never can tell who knows who, so, you know, if you need a specific set and you don't have immediate access to it, you ask your friends first. Does anyone know someone who can come up with a morgue. Speaking of which, I'm looking for a morgue for Athena. Facebook.com/Athena movie. You know, you reach out to your closest friends first, and perhaps they know someone. If not, you start knocking on doors. If ultimately you can't come up with anything, well, then you have two choices. One is you build something from scratch in a warehouse or a studio or in the woods or wherever. Or two, you find a room that you have presently and you try to outfit it. You know, all of those scenarios are going to have their give and take. Personally, I would rather use a real location just because there is authenticity in there, which leads to production value. And that's kind of what everything that I'm doing is all about, production value. How much money can you represent on screen? Not that, you know, you have to have $1 million location in every shot or anything, but I mean the higher dollar, the more expensive your sets look, the more expensive your movie looks in general, the more worth it's going to have ultimately. So that's kind of what I'm going after.
And since we're talking in generalities into specifics of the short films and short things that you've done, Dummy specifically, that's the latest one that you've completed, correct?
Yes. That was done for a little local competition, written by my writing partner Michael Lewis Calvillo, who lives in LA right now. It was an interesting little short comedy. Originally, when Michael showed it to me, it was just about a dummy. And like, you know what? I've seen that before. Why don't we spice it up a little bit and make it about me? Because everything's got to be about me in some way. So because of my yammering and my constant harassment and hounding and all, he wrote me into the movie, called the character Bob. And it turned out to be a little satire about independent filmmaking, which is what I originally thought would be most interesting about that particular subgenre. Is, you know, everybody's done a dummy picture. There was Magic, there's Pinocchio, there's a lot of little things like that. You know, just wanted to vary the formula up and make it my own, which is kind of a big thing for me, making things my own. You know, everything has been done to some level to death. But it's what you do with the material that really kind of sells you, I think. And I try to put a little bit of me, charisma, humor sometimes. I'm not very funny typically. But in Dummy, I just, you know, we were actually doing all of the breakdowns, and I decided that the movie didn't have enough sort of intricacy, so I came up with all these little comedic buttons, which are all these little flashback scenarios showing, like, you know, for example, the dummy in sort of in an occult situation where he's being imbued by these demonic powers. little stuff like that are just exclusively from my head, and, you know, to add a little zest into formulaic proceedings.
Okay. And now you mentioned, like, dummy films, like everybody does a dummy film. What do you mean by that? What's a dummy film?
Oh, well, dummy. It's basically a subgenre in the horror category. It's, you know, like, for example, Child's Play. Okay. I would consider that to be a dummy film. a film called Magic. I would consider that a dummy film. Pinocchio. It's just it's a little subgenre. There aren't a ton of pictures really, but the problem is there's only a limited. There, just by being a dummy picture, there's a limit to what you can do with it. It's going to be a doll that talks and kills people normally. True story about dummy. I found a road fairly close by. It's just like a mile up the road, mile up 274 here. It was just put in. Very, very, very little traffic. As a matter of fact, one of the only vehicles that came by was a sheriff's car. And actually, he came by once. We all watched him drive by all together, looking at him, watching him like the birds as he drove by the first time. And then like an hour or so later, he comes driving by again. This time we see that he gets past us and puts his stoplights on and backs up. Like, oh crap, we shouldn't be here. So much like Ed Wood, I was like, everybody grab equipment and run. No, I'm kidding. We weren't like that at all. It was like, stand your ground. So we did. We stood our ground. He was just interested. He was like, "Yeah, what are you guys doing?" You know, we were off on the shoulder. We weren't like in the road the majority of the time. We were just off the side of the road shooting it. And so he just hung out and watched us for a little bit, and then he moseyed on. Of course, we had gotten finished with all of the blood gag stuff before he came back, and of course we didn't have any water or anything to clean that up. So by the time we left, it looks like someone was slaughtered on the side of the road.
Fantastic.
But the following day's rain took care of that.
Very good. And how about Tales from Mutantville?
Oh, yeah, Tales from Mutantville. There are 3 short films that the guys with Mutantville Productions got me involved with, and I was the director of photography and the editor on those. And the fun little story in respect to the background between those guys and I, we were competing in the Romero competition against one another, and of course I kicked their keisters, and you know, they never fail to let me live that down. But I don't rub things in people's faces. You know, see the dead one and won gloriously. Their project failed miserably, and you know, I just don't like to gloat. You know, they're good guys ultimately. Seriously, love working with them. They have a great attitude. They're doing a lot of cool stuff. They're very proactive in marketing both themselves and others, which is very commendable. They've got the know-how and the time to do so. They've helped me out a good bit, and you know, so I wanted to get to know them a little bit better. So that's where and how I got involved with Tales from Mutantville. We did a project for Jamie McRoberts called Scarecrow at Midnight, which is a scarecrow movie, another subgenre, not unlike the dummy subgenre, but totally different. In this case, it's about a scarecrow. And no, it's about snakes. So we shot that, and George Blaylock did a project called Family Fiend, which is about a psychopath, and Brent Bowers did a project called Indigo Child. And you know, I was deeply ingrained in all 3 of those and enjoyed it. Did all of the editing or the principal editing like almost immediately after production, and we got product for those up pretty quickly, I think, and finished up all of the visual effects because Indigo Child was pretty intensive in terms of visual effects. We finished those up after I did the first stretch of principal photography for Athena, facebook.com/Athena movie. So we revisited those about 3 or 4 months later and finished everything up. So now they're doing the film festival circuit and compiling a sort of anthology kind of, it's more just a collection of shorts, DVD, and it's going to be distributed hopefully very soon.
So there's been multiple projects with that group, or just the one?
It's just those 3 short films,
okay,
comprising the tales from Mutantville. So it was 3 sets of principal photography on 3 different weekends. We shot each one of these on a weekend. And I think the most notable of those shoots was Scarecrow at Midnight, where a number of nasty things nearly befell me. Not the least of which was Matthew Ewald, who plays the Scarecrow, and a good friend of mine. Was one of the shots that I had wanted to see was him kind of running and slashing at camera, and everyone's like, yeah, that's great. So here I am running with the camera, like 3 feet in front of Matthew, who's running with this scythe and slashing at me. So we can get this really awesome shot of the Scarecrow slashing down to camera. Well, a number of times I heard whoosh, right past my ear because he's throwing his arm over the lens and it's going like right near my head. So I was nearly brained a number of times. Thank you, Matthew. And also thank you, Matthew, because you didn't actually do it. So then there was my infinite wisdom. We shot Scarecrow at Midnight sort of at the change in climates between summer and deep autumn, or at least I guess early autumn and later deeper autumn. So the temperature got extremely low, and according to my infinite wisdom, every time the temperature is supposed to get really low, you wear shorts and you wear a t-shirt. And you don't bring a change of clothes, or at least none that you can get into really quickly. So
where is the fun in that?
No, there is no fun, and that's exactly my point. So I was out there in shorts and a t-shirt for, oh gosh, the first day for Scarecrow, we shot, oh man, that was a nightmare shoot. It was at least 20 hours of photography, 20 hours, all through the night. And, kudos to me, because I never broke down and went to hang out at the campfire that everyone built up. But everybody else who was wearing far more than I was, they were gathered around that campfire the whole time. And I'm like, hey, let's go. And they're like, screw you. And like, we're never going to get done. They're like, screw you some more. So anyway, we finally got it done. I think that's why we're there for 20 some odd hours. Looking at you guys.
This makes for a good story.